I spent 10 years building my career. 10 years. I went to college for it. I built up skills. I built up knowledge. I built up this whole identity around the work that I did. And when I left my career, it didn't feel like I was making a choice. It felt like I was shutting a door on a whole version of myself. And now when someone asks me what I do, I feel a little embarrassed sometimes. I'll be honest. I feel a little embarrassed. Like I have nothing else to contribute other than that I'm a stay-at-home mom. Welcome to the Mom Department. If you're new here, I'm Deborah, and I'm a wife and stay-at-home mom to 4. And today we're going to go deeper into something I touched on in one of my previous episodes, but I didn't really fully unpack it. And that is the identity crisis that happens when you leave your career to stay home with your babies. And that is the grief, the confusion, and the who am I now spiral that no one prepares you for when you leave your job. I got a comment that someone left on my quitting my job and going from being a working mom to being a stay-at-home mom episode that I just cannot stop thinking about. She said, I had to leave my career to be a stay-at-home with my littles in April. Some days are great, but others not so much. Like I'm grieving my old identity. And it made me realize that we really don't talk about this enough. We talk about the logistics of staying home. We talk about the guilt. We talk about the financial piece, but I feel like we don't talk about the loss of self. We don't talk about what it feels like to go from being someone with a title, with a career, with a sense of purpose and contribution to just being a mom. And I know that just saying just being a mom seems a little it seems like I'm minimizing it. And you're not, when you're a mom, you're not just a mom. You are a nurse. You are a cook. You are a cleaner. You are someone's personal emotional support. You're a whole lot of things. But sometimes you can just feel like you're just a mom. And here's what I want you to know. That loss is real. That grief that you're feeling is real. And you're not crazy for feeling it, because I did too. So today I'm going to share my experience with you. I'm going to talk about what it felt like to build a 10-year career and then to walk away from it to stay home, and what that identity crisis actually looked like, and what I was grieving, and what started to help me rebuild. If you're in this season right now, if you've recently left your career and you feel lost, you feel invisible, you feel like you don't know who you are anymore, this episode is for you. So let me paint a picture of who I was before I left my job. I spent 10 years in a specific career path. I started as an auditor at the state auditor's office in Massachusetts. Then I moved into investigative work, the Attorney General's office in Massachusetts, where I worked as a wage and hour investigator. And then in my last role, the one I just left, I was an analyst at a consulting firm. And a lot of the work that I did was surrounding child welfare. So I worked on the back end of some of the child welfare agencies who protect children, essentially. And it was very fulfilling and important work that I was doing, because I was helping children who were really at risk and were in real need. And I was helping the state kind of execute their role, whether it's on the back end of getting them the financial federal dollars, or it was evaluating their processes, their systems, or being a partner with them while they do their child welfare work. And I spent a lot of time traveling to different states agencies, and I would travel extensively. And I'd go to different child welfare agencies, and we would audit their files, and we would just make sure that they were in compliance with state laws. And doing that work made me feel good, because I knew that my work behind the scenes, stuff that nobody saw, was helping the vulnerable children who were in real need and who were at risk. And it was empowering to empower states to do their job and to protect children. So when I would introduce myself at social events, or if I was at a party and I'd meet someone new, I'd say that I'm an analyst at a consulting firm doing child welfare work. And saying that out loud, it made me feel powerful, because it's not just a common job that people do. So people would ask more questions, they would probe, they'd want to understand what I did, and they would lean in. And that validation that people were interested in my work really mattered to me. And that was huge for my identity. But just beyond that title, what I really loved about working was the routine. I loved having something concrete that I was working on every day, a project that I was managing, people that I was managing. I loved having an outcome, something something that I could see and point to and say, I did that. I made an impact. And I also loved the adult interaction that I would get, the conversations about work, the conversations about problem solving, and that I was a contributing member to society. Because here's the thing, everyone I knew, my whole community, everyone works. My sisters, they all work. My mom worked. My friends all work. And when you get together with people, the first thing people start talking about is their job. That's how you introduce yourself. That's what you talk about, your career, your work, and then maybe you'd mention your kids and your family and all of that comes after. But your work, that is your identity. People identify you by what you do and what you contribute to society. And looking back now, I can see how much my sense of worth was tied into that title, into that job, into my impact work. It was huge. And it was a huge part of who I was or who I felt that I was. You know, I went to college for this and I spent my whole time post-college just building up my career, building up my resume, getting experience. And I felt like I had something to offer the world and I just felt important. My work was important to me. But here's the thing, when I left my job, there wasn't really a specific moment where I realized I don't know who I am anymore or when I had that identity crisis. I think it started maybe a couple months in. I was on a daily FaceTime call with my sisters. We do this every day, just talking about what's going on in our lives. And they were kind of making fun of me, kind of teasing me and saying, you don't have anything outside of motherhood. Your whole life is just about being a mom. You don't have anything else going on. And that kind of hit heavy. I know they were kidding, but it hit because in that moment, I realized that they're right. I don't have anything else going on in my life besides being a mom, besides taking care of my kids, besides homeschooling my kids. I didn't have anything outside of that whole realm. And if that's you and that is your purpose and your role right now is just to be focused on your family and kids, that's fine. But personally for me, it stung. I knew that there wasn't anything outside of just raising my children that I was doing. I felt like after I had left my job, I just dove headfirst into motherhood, into being a stay-at-home mom, just so I could do it well. I was doing all the activities. I was doing all the things to run my house efficiently as possible. Everything about me was just to be a mom, and there was nothing else. I used to be somebody else. I used to have a job. I used to have a career. I used to have skills that I'd spent years building. I used to talk to adults and not speak in baby tones, and I used to manage people. I'd spent all those years building that part of me professionally. Here I was at this point in my life, just being a mom. And that FaceTime call really made me realize that I'd lost my identity, or I'd lost in identity. So then that whole FaceTime thing happened. And I think a few weeks later, it was like God was trying to tell me something, honestly. But I remember I was scrolling on social media one day, and I remember seeing people my age talk about their careers, their business, their accomplishments. And then I just felt another wave of that pang and that wave of kind of emptiness, something like unfulfilled. Like I didn't have any other purpose outside of motherhood. Like I had lost my whole identity to something outside of being a mom. And that felt kind of heavy. That weight was heavy. Another part of that kind of feeling of that loss that I would have, it was that constant feeling of getting those Sunday scaries. You know, the feeling that you feel of dread of, oh, I have to get back to work on Monday. I have to switch my mind. I have to get myself ready. And then suddenly realize, oh, I don't work anymore. I don't have a job. There's no Monday meeting. There's no office to go to. And I think that realization wasn't relief at times. Sometimes it just kind of felt like loss. And that feeling of loss kind of trickles when I watch my sisters on FaceTime in the mornings, getting dressed and getting ready. They're preparing for their day. They're talking about their projects. They're talking about their promotions. They're talking about their challenges and getting their kids ready to go to daycare or to go to school. And here I am on the phone in my pajamas, getting ready to not really go anywhere, do anything, but just to be a mom and be a mom all day long at home, doing the same routine, doing the same monotony, no change, no challenge, just being a mom. And thinking about this, while there advancing in their careers, getting promotions, having things to contribute to conversations, I realized I didn't have that anymore. When everyone's sharing about work, I just felt like I was just like, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And then I would just talk about my kids. And I felt like I would just end up being annoying because that's all I have to offer is just talking about my kids and the things that they did when they were at home. And again, this internal dialogue during this time, it was brutal because it's my mind trying to process the loss that I went through so suddenly, and then I dove quickly into motherhood. It was brutal time. And I kept telling myself that I chose this life. Why do I feel so unfulfilled? I should just be grateful. And my husband is just making a huge sacrifice for us. And I'm making a huge sacrifice for my family by taking away my income so I can be available to my kids, so I can be there to raise my children, so I can be there to homeschool them. I should just be grateful. But there was still a lingering question of what else am I missing? What is it outside of motherhood that's supposed to be giving me fulfillment or fulfilling my purpose that God gave me? Because work used to fill that part of fulfillment, but now it's gone. There's just a void there. And I kept asking myself, what is wrong with me? If I'm getting what I want right now, if this is what I chose, if I begged God to give me this life, why am I still feeling this way? And it took me a while to realize what I was actually feeling. But one day it just clicked. And I realized what I was feeling, it was grief. It was like someone had died within me, like I was mourning a person who was no longer there, who no longer existed. And that person was the old me, the working me, the me who had a career, the me who had a title, the me who felt powerful and important and felt like she was contributing to the world. And that version of me, she was gone. And I was grieving her, and I was grieving someone who had that routine, someone who'd gotten dressed every single morning, who felt presentable, someone who had work that felt impactful, someone who had adult conversations about things other than naps and snacks and schedules and playtime. And now I was just in my sweats or my pajamas all day long, tending to little children. And I missed who I used to be. I missed being a working career mom. I also felt like I was grieving the sense of contributing financially to my family. When you work, you provide a skill and you get paid for it. There's a validation in that my worth is tied to the amount of money I make in my job. And I wasn't doing that anymore. And I wasn't being paid to be with my kids. Obviously, I provide value to my children, but there's no paycheck that comes with that. And that's pretty obvious when you become a stay-at-home mom, that you're not getting paid to be there with your children. I would say here's the hardest part. It was that I was grieving something I chose. I chose to leave. I chose to stay home. I chose this life for my family. So why did I feel like I did not have the right to feel sad about it? And I think that guilt is real. That internal voice saying to you, you should be grateful. You wanted this. Other moms would kill for this opportunity. What is wrong with you? But here's what I want you to know. And this kind of took me a long time to understand as well, that grief and gratitude can coexist. And you can be grateful for the opportunity to stay home with your kids, and you can grieve the life that you left behind. You can love your children with everything that you have and still miss who you used to be. It's okay to feel those feelings. And you can know that you made the right decision and still mourn what you gave up. Both things can be true at the same time, and there's no shame in that, honestly. So if you're listening to this and you feel guilty for grieving something you chose, I want to give you permission right now. You are allowed to mourn your own life, and you are allowed to miss who you were. Missing your career doesn't mean that you don't love your kids. It honestly just means that you are human. Now, let me be honest about what I tried that didn't work. When I first left my job, I thought the solution was to completely dive headfirst into being a mom and into motherhood and into running my home efficiently, kind of like I was running my job efficiently. Like, if I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom, I'm going to be the best stay-at-home mom that ever existed. And I'm going to do all the activities, all the crafts, all the educational things. I'm going to run my house as efficiently as possible. I'm going to make motherhood my whole identity, my whole life. And you know what? that didn't fill the void that I had lost. Because even while I was doing all the things, all the activities, all the outings, all the, I guess, Pinterest worthy mom moments, I still felt emptiness inside. I still felt like I wasn't using my God-given gifts. I felt like I wasn't being creative. I wasn't building something. I wasn't creating anything outside of raising my children. And don't get me wrong, raising children is an important job. It's meaningful, valuable work. It's kingdom work. But I knew deep down that there was something else inside of me, other dreams, other gifts, other things that I was meant to do. And my whole identity had become just being a mom. And while that is obviously the most cherished identity I have, it wasn't the only thing that I was created to be. And I think what also didn't help was comparing myself to my sisters or to my friends and watching them get ready for work, hearing about their promotions, seeing them advance where I felt just stuck. That comparison made everything worse for me. Scrolling through social media and seeing other women my age building businesses and thriving in their careers, that didn't help either. It just made me feel more behind. It made me feel invisible and it made me feel lost. And I think waiting for the feeling to just go away, that didn't work either, because grief, it doesn't just disappear when you ignore it. It just gets heavier. So now I want to talk about what actually helped and what's currently helping me rebuild my identity. And I think the first thing was a conversation with my husband. I think he could sense that I was just a bit unfulfilled or a little stir crazy. And what's crazy is that he retired me after I expressed I wanted to be home with my kids. And now I felt like I was just complaining that this wasn't enough. But in grace, he looked at me and he said, you need to have hobbies outside of being a mom. You need to build friendships outside of your children. And it hit me because he was right. I had made my whole world about my kids. And while they are my world in many ways, I had forgotten that I'm also a person, a whole person with dreams and gifts and a need for connection outside of motherhood. And so I started making friends with other mothers. I plugged myself into different groups at church. I started building a community, and that really, really helped. But the biggest thing, the thing that is really helping me rebuild, is building something outside of just being a mother. I started doing something that I felt like God had put on my heart, something that felt like my purpose. And that is this podcast. That is the mom department. And I started sharing my experiences. I started helping other moms, and I started writing, and I started creating content and developing courses like my birth mindset course. I started writing books. I started building a business. And that in itself, that gave me purpose outside of motherhood. Because yes, I am still talking about motherhood, and this whole podcast is about being a mom, but the mom department is something I'm building. It's a business, it's creative work. It's using my gifts of creativity and my ability to communicate, to connect, to help people, and in a way that fulfills me. And it almost feels like a full circle moment, because in my previous careers, all of my jobs led me to here. They taught me skills. They grew me and groomed me to be able to be who I am today and to use those skills that I learned to connect now in a different way with other people. And I feel a great sense of fulfillment, a great sense of purpose that it's building inside of me. I want you to know, and I want you to hear, that I am still a stay-at-home mom to my core. I'm still here with my kids every single day. I'm homeschooling and I'm still doing the mom thing, but I'm also building something. And I'm also pursuing a dream. I'm also using gifts that God gave me. And that's what's helping me rebuild my identity. Not going back to who I used to be, which was a career woman, because I can't. That door is completely closed for now. But becoming who I'm meant to be now in this season as a mom and as a woman with dreams. And the mom department fits into my identity because it's proof that you can still be a stay-at-home mom and still build something. You You can lose your career identity and you can find a new one. You can grieve who you were and still become someone you're proud of. And that's what I want for you too. If you're a mom who's lost your sense of identity, if you feel like you're just a stay-at-home mom and you have nothing else to offer, I want you to know that you can do something too. You can have different hobbies. You can have different interests. You can build something outside of your children and know that your dreams didn't die when you left your career. They're just waiting for you to pick them back up again. So if I could sit across from that mom who left me that comment, told me that she was grieving her identity, here's what I would say to her. First, you're not crazy. What you're feeling is real. It's grief. And that grief is heavy and it's normal. You lost something significant and a whole version of yourself. And of course, you're mourning it. It'll take you a long time to continue to mourn. I still mourn that sometimes. And I'm now almost 2 years post leaving my job. I would say you're also allowed to feel this way and be grateful at the same time. You don't have to choose. You can love your kids and you can love being at home with them. And you can miss who you used to be. Both things are true. Third, you are not just a stay-at-home mom. You're a whole person. You have gifts. You have dreams. You have something to offer the world that goes beyond changing diapers and making snacks. And just because you're home right now, it doesn't mean those gifts stay dormant. Fourth, this is a season. It's not forever. You won't feel lost forever. That fog will lift, that identity will rebuild, but it takes time, it takes intention, and you have to be willing to grieve what you lost and pursue what's next in your life. And fifth, find something, build something. And it doesn't have to be a business. It doesn't have to be a podcast, obviously. It could be a hobby. It could be a creative outlet. It can be a friendship. It can be a project. It just has to be something that's yours, something that reminds you that you're more than just a mom. Because here's what I wish someone had told me in the thick of it when I had left my job 2 years ago. It's that your identity isn't gone. It's just being rewritten. You're not losing yourself. You're just becoming someone new. And the woman that you're becoming, she might be even a better version of the woman that you are now. If this episode resonated with you, I want to hear from you. Comment below. Tell me where you are in this journey. Tell me what you're grieving. Tell me what you're building. You don't have to do this alone. And if you know a mom who's in this season right now, who left her career, who's feeling a little lost, who needs to know that she's not the only one, send her this episode. Sometimes we just need someone to say, me too. And if you haven't already, go ahead and like and subscribe and follow along so you don't miss any other episodes. But before I go, I do want to leave you with this last message. Leaving my career didn't mean I erased who I was. It just cleared the canvas, and I'm still figuring out what to do next, what to paint next. And some days I have clarity, and some days I still feel a little lost. Some days I feel purpose, and some days I feel like that old grief is creeping back in because it's familiar. But here's what I know for sure. I am more than just my job title. I'm more than just my productivity. I'm more than just what I produce. And so are you. You are a whole person. And in this season, it's just one chapter of your story. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.